let me, without any further ado, quickly begin by inviting our moderator, who is going to handle this entire conversation and navigate it. Ms. Bhawna Sangwan, Chief Legal and Strategy Officer, Slice. Let us give her a warm, resounding round of applause. And let's keep that applause going. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to have a louder round of applause, especially from the backbenchers. Thank you for obliging. Okay, great. A warm welcome to you on stage. And as we further invite our esteemed panel members, I want the round of applause to continue. Mr. D.K. Das, Senior Executive Vice President and Head Digital Transformation at Excellence Unit, Bandhan Bank. May I request your presence on stage? A very warm welcome to you, however is convenient for you. Up next, Ms. Anu Aggarwal, President and Head of Corporate Banking, Kotak Mahindra Bank. Absolutely grateful for your presence here. Up next, Ms. Arnika Dixit, President and Head, Wealth Management, Affluent Banking, Cards and Payment, Axis Bank. A warm welcome to you. And last but not the least, Mr. Arvind Vohra, Country Head and Group Head, Retail Assets, Rural Banking and Microfinance, HDFC Bank. Bhawna, I leave the strings of conversation in your able hands. We're all excited.
So thank you very much, and thank you everyone for joining this session. I think the topic is about innovation in the traditional banking. And just to set a context, I think Indian banks are actually leading digital payments on the global platform. But at the same time, these are the banks who have adopted technology over a period of time. The way the technology has been adopted is I would say, more on an ad hoc basis, based on the need and the time, where the paper-based processing has actually moved to the core banking. A lot of technology has been built for building the stacks on the lending side, wealth management side, investment side. And what has led is that we have reached a situation where there's a lot of technology, there's a lot of data, but all the data and technology is siloed. These technology has not been designed for the purpose of operating in an interoperable way. The data is not harnessed to the best of its ability. And this has led to certain gaps in actually enhancing or innovating the new product. It has also led us to a situation where today most of the banks have a large IT budget, but that is more or less maintained toward keeping the lights on in terms of maintaining the technology stack instead of investing on the technology side. So with this background, we have an excellent set of people here. And I'll start with you, Arvind. Typically today, from an HDFC standpoint, how do you think innovation, whether it's driven more by the competition or from a customer-centric standpoint, where you innovate for the customers?
Well, I think our core belief is that innovation should be, and that's our way of working as well, should be to build excellence in customer experience, be it the digital journeys, be it the phygital journeys. And I think it's easier said than done, because the small nuances that we have to understand in terms of the customer's life-centric insights, what customers prefer, how they would like the journeys to be. We are in the instant gratification, 10-second, 10-minute world, right? I think the whole world is changing very fast, and so are consumers changing. They are digital natives. When we can order food, from Zomato and Swiggy in 10 minutes, I think we can also process loan in 10 minutes. I think that's what customers expect from us, and I think that's the endeavor that we at HDFC Bank, also have.
Great. So Arnika, from your standpoint, since you are looking at an affluent customer set also on the card side, how do you see the innovation in your bank?
So, look, I won't deny sometimes competitive pressure does pushes you. And when I say competitive pressure, it's not in your own industry. I think sometimes you see fintechs innovating in a way that you start to think, okay, this is how the consumer behavior might adapt. Most of the time, definitely, like Arvind said, we also look at consumer needs and we try to see how best to serve it. I think the only extra layer I would like to add that we do at the bank also is to think through how should you do certain category development for the longer term. Because very often, innovations are limited to, maybe what's for this financial year, what's in the budget, how much is the tech spend that you'll do. But thinking through the business, and especially on the payment side, where things are changing very rapidly, even on the wealth side, we are, like, for example, we are thinking about a Gen AI piece, but that's not going to give me anything immediately. But I think over a period of 3 years, I do feel that wealthy consumers also will start to look at their investment needs in a very different manner. And that's the third layer of, I think, core belief that the bank is, investing in upfront rather than, just following what's happening.
Great. So, Anu, coming to you, how exactly the innovation, specifically in your profile, which is very different and unique, how exactly you imbibe innovation in the current scenario?
So Bhavna, corporate banking and innovation traditionally always were like oxymorons. Everybody thought they can't be spoken in the same sentence, which frankly how it was for a very long period of time. But now over last few years, it's changing and changing very rapidly. And at Kotak, we are thinking of it as 3 pillars. So basically, we say that digitize the routine, humanize the complex. So basically, all the routine tasks, middle office, back office, we are putting it onto machines, to bots, and really leaving the bankers to do deep judgments and heavy level of structuring, high quality M&A, bespoke solutions, customized offerings. That is what the bankers are expected to do now. And other stuff that we are doing on the corporate banking side is also a lot on risk management. So using a lot of heavy analytics to sharpen our credit decisions and also to get early warning signals. And the third most important, of course, is the collaborative customer journeys. So whether it is from onboarding, digitization of the account opening, the supply chain, the cash management, working capital management, Forex, it's like everywhere. But within all this, I always tell my bankers that at the end of the day, the most important innovation that we do, besides the whole apps and the algorithms, is to make sure that we retain the human connect in this digital world.
Great points. So DK, presently you are with Bandhan Bank. You had experience, earlier with Axis Bank. So how exactly do you think, the innovation will have a role, specifically from the government segment standpoint?
Well, at Axis, I was heading business, and in Bandhan, I'm going to drive technology. So that's one of the most key differentiator in some of the things I'm doing. So if we take a standoff view as to how innovation is actually changing currently now, just about the other day, I was in a conference where one of the things, it was basically a defense-led consortium showing up things. So one of the innovation which that particular fintech partner based out of Tel Aviv was trying to show was to take the heads-up display which the fighter jets have, and the fighter pilot takes it on, puts it into your living room, and then with augmented reality on your hand, you do your banking. So that's the generation change. So earlier we used to know what an A to B would be, and currently now we just don't know what A to Z is. So that's the speed at which it is changing. So from our perspective at the bank, I think being a late starter, one of the most important part for us is to rely on the fintech partners. And today, the GFF is actually a celebration of what the Fintech Festival is all about. And more they collaborate with us, more they bring in the innovation, that's how we stand to benefit. There would be journeys, there would be effects which we bring on. It won't be any change. There won't be much change between any universal bank. Some would do it better, some would do it a little bit better. And the idea for us to do is to always keep innovating, moving what is called as a hop, step, jump, and to be ahead of it. The advantage of being a late starter is that you always see the difference between the others and try to innovate on that and become a better person. That's about it. That's what we will try to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, DK. Going back, one thing which is very clear from this panel is that innovation is very critical. I think all the banks are working in order to innovate, bridge the gap. in terms of customer expectation, which is very different at this point in stage where everything needs to be instant. The delivery has to happen immediately. So banking is also seen as a service which requires the customer mindset to have a very affordable, convenient, and trusted product. And to that point, Arvind, back to you. In your experience as a retail banking, there are many customers on the ground, right? And the scale of operation is massive. The demand of the customer is very unique. Sometimes you have to customize for those. So how exactly, as a bank, you will think in order to balance the efficiency along with the innovation, which leads to the result that the customer is looking for, but at the same time, it meets the other criteria also for the bank to run and provide the offering.
See, when we have to innovate at scale, we all heard about, product, price, place, promotion, haven't we? Yeah. But I think the new age innovation, especially if you have to do it at scale, the new 4 or 5 Ps is, first is problem solving for customers. A lot of times when we build journeys, what we have in mind a lot of times is, executing physical transaction or physical applications into digital, but not really thinking first in terms of what is the problem that we are trying to solve, and are we going to solve it better than somebody else? Because that's where the real differentiation, that's where the real innovation comes out. Second, platform thinking, are we thinking in terms of building a platform that is going to make the access ubiquitous for customers so that we can build scale? Personalization, which is the third P, partnership is the fourth P, and of course, people and the skills is the overarching theme. And what is interesting, and sometimes I wonder, as I was thinking through my points, we talk about this fintech word and banks, don't we, right? But if you actually think through deeply, banks have a large technology function, right? Haven't we got that technology function? We deal in the business of finance. Do we do anything else other than finance? So if somebody's got the moral right, to be a fintech, it's got to be banks. Somewhere I feel banks have abdicated this to another word, which we call fintech. And I think if banks don't get it back, right, then the 5 years hence and 10 years hence picture is going to be a lot different. And that's where this innovation comes in. So I think we're in the midst of very, very big changes. Some of the stuff that we are doing at the bank right now in HDFC is, rolling out express loan journeys for variety of propositions, which essentially means that we can underwrite any adult citizen of the country on the fly, right? If Swiggy is going to deliver food in 10 minutes, we should be able to say yes or no in 10 minutes. Are we going to deliver or not deliver, right? We may not give a loan to everyone, but we should be able to inform, and then if your answer is yes, then deliver it in 10 minutes, right? 10 seconds to 10 minutes, because our own pre-approved customers, we of course do them in 10 seconds even today. So I think that's the degree of change. So I think inclusion is all about access. That's where the platform thinking is going to help us. And then as far as efficiencies is concerned, a lot is happening on Gen AI. We are also working on that, be it IDRS, be it, which is the image recognition, be it conversational AI, be it, AI agents. A lot of other panel discussions are talking about it. But I think we are still in experimentation stage, most of us. And I think the journey is about moving from experimentation stage to an enterprise-grade deployment. And there's a big journey out there as well.
Thanks, Arvind. I'll actually go to Arnika at this stage, because what Arvind has explained is that how exactly HDFC is working on the ground. Arnika is actually handling the most affluent customers, and she handles the wealth management also. So how do you see, Arnika, that the top layer, most affluent customers in the India, how exactly the innovation need for those customers are different than those which are actually at a very tier 4 city level?
See, I genuinely feel like at least, we all think that the wealthier the customer, the client is, the more the human touch matters. And therefore, you will still see in many of the high-end clients, you still have paper-based forms because you think that, you have a person who can go and get everything signed. But the same consumer is actually interacting with technology in a very different manner and behaves very differently in other industry, in other use cases. The way we see it is actually in a lot of space, especially in wealth management, the portfolio reviews that you do with the clients, end of the day, how personalized those portfolio reviews are. Are you just showing what you have, or is there something that you can use using external, data sources? We do a lot of research, along the bank, our own chief economist research, a lot of research we get from other credible institutions. But are we actually using technology and innovation to reach out to the client at the right time to actually, advise them at some point in time, right? In hindsight, everything looks good. All of you would have thought we should have invested in gold and silver, or for that matter, when the tariffs are coming into India, people would have thought, okay, what do I do now, right? And I think the senior you are, the wealthier you are, the more such kind of thoughts come into your mind. And then the third segment comes in consumer personas. Within the wealthier segments, there are different consumer personas. Within ultra high net worth individuals, it's not just the promoter's family. You have a lot of wealth creation in the salaried segment. You have a lot of NRI segment which actually comes in the wealth space. All three of them have very different investment needs. And I think the technology should be able to actually personalize that to a level where you are able to advise a salaried client differently than self-employed. And I think we assume that because we have a personal RM, we are able to give that customized advice, but that doesn't happen. So I think the role of tech in my view, in the affluent segment is equally, if not, and much more important. Largely, the bank started at the bottom. I mean, for me, I think technology is the biggest equalizer. It helps you create economies of scale. It also helps you drive a lot of innovation. But technology can be your moat and be a differentiator in a segment you want to own and prosper.
Thank you very much. So just to summarize, I think the need for a customized services for our affluent customer will definitely exist, while there is no way that it cannot be offered through innovative modes, typically through the digital modes also, where some part of the human touch can actually be replaced by the technology. I think I'll take a segue and I'll move to DK at the stage, where DK, based on your experience specifically with the government, right? The government is working at a scale, at a very large scale. They want to touch the large number of Indian citizens in order to offer various kind of their schemes, and also asking the banks to enable the financial services there. So how exactly do you think, what is the need of the time at the moment in order to deliver those services and for the new products or the offering that the bank should have to meet that gap today?
Okay, see, government or the sovereign is all about scale. I mean, the mass will define the need that comes out by the hour, and then you go about implementing it. 2611 resulted in Government of India instituting, or the Ministry of Home Affairs starting something called the CCTNS program, the Crime and Criminal Tracking Networking System, where even the last of the police station is now on the network on like a 911 that you see in the United States. The huge amount of influx resulted in the Passport Seva Kendra modernization program. So we have the digital infrastructure stack in place. The inclusions are happening. Jan-Dhan accounts are getting done. So at this stage, what it needs is Aadhaar-enabled payment services to go to the last mile. And that's where all your payment, your fintech, and then working very closely with the regulator to ensure that all your things are in place is something which will keep on happening. That's from the stack which comes from the government, as in from the central government side. Then the various state government will have its own initiatives starting from them. That's where you again can obviously work with bringing in various sort of a payment-enabled services, bringing in various amount of institutional services as to see what we can do. So government, working with government is also working to understand that there is a scale which we need to bring on, and that scale has to work on over a period of time. So that's how I think the government business would all.
Sure, thanks, DK. I think the same, Anup, in your case also, because for the corporate banking, it's about the large ticket size, it's about the trust that the corporates have built with you. And it's also about the various offering, the speed and convenience that they would look forward in their offering. So how exactly do you think, that what are the gaps ideally, and how exactly that solution can be offered by the banks for the corporate banking as a segment?
So, Bhavna, the whole, the way the corporate banking and the corporate clients are thinking, there's been a huge fundamental shift over the last few years, which is what I initially also mentioned about, right? So I'll give you a very basic example. Think of a FMCG company, which has distributors, thousands of distributors across the country. Earlier, when we used to collect for them, we would give them a very simple Excel sheet end of the day, and it was all manual reconciliations. But now clients need real-time visibility, automated reconciliations, and plugged into their ERPs through APIs. Similarly, like think of NBFCs. If earlier they gave loans and they collected money through EMIs, there used to be a stack of PDCs which used to come, right? And we would bank them, and if they were upcountry checks, it took you 21 days for clearing. And after that came the whole ECS forms, which were like physical forms with Fed signatures. Then came the NACH, and now you have this whole UPI auto-pay and Aadhaar-based mandates. So corporates, whether financials or institutions or companies, are changing so rapidly. And that is where banks and fintechs are partnering in a very big way. And a lot of, frankly, I would say that while we want to do a lot of it ourselves, but we have seen great outcomes in partnerships with fintechs, because fintechs bring amazing speed, amazing quality of innovation, and very customer-centric designs. And we've seen some great outcomes in working together.
So I think this is a great perspective, which is about the partnership, about the fintech with the banks. It's very clear that banks have different technology stacks, but still there are gaps. Like as a data point, at this point in time, almost 90% of the Indian citizens already have a bank account. But when we talk about the lending ratio, when we talk about the percentage of the customer who have access to the credit card, that's actually very minimal. So I think in the last 10 years, we have been able to reach out to the customers, open the bank account, but the delivery of the actual financial services, specifically on the credit side, there is a huge delta that exists. And on that point, Arvind, to you, how do you view the bank partnership with the fintech? What is your viewpoint, both from the challenge and the opportunity standpoint?
Yeah. So I just said it. I mean, the question itself is wrong. The banks are the biggest fintechs in my view. And I think the opportunity and responsibility is on to us sort of to show that. Some of the successes are happening. I mean, we talked about express loan journeys. We talked about embedded finance, banking as a service. Those are some of the successes. Some of the challenges are around privacy, cybersecurity. But I want to talk about something much more profound. Okay, how much time did we sort of innovate? Probably we won't know that, because that's too much back into the history. I don't know Rig Vedas or which times, to create the wheel so that we could actually travel on a wheel, right? Maybe millions of years ago, whatever, right? As far as we read our history books when we were in school. And then 100 years ago, or maybe 80 years ago, I don't know when, but typically around that time, we created the ICE engine, the automobiles, right? The first automobile, right? Look at the innovation cycle time. Probably 1,000, 2,000 years, 100 years ago, that came. Electric vehicle, right? The amount of innovation that is going to, that from 2015 to 2050, next 20 years, probably it will beat the innovation that has happened in the last 1,000 years. The innovation technology cycles are shortening very, very significantly, more rapidly than we think they are, because we are in the midst of it. We had the marketplace come in, which disrupted the brands. We had the Make My Trips and all of them come in. Now the GenAI will disrupt all of them, because if you embed all of these journeys into the GenAI itself, into the Perplexity or Gemini or ChatGPT, you actually don't need any of them. You actually go there, they will tell you that this flight, this platform is giving you the cheapest, your card, your payment stack is there. Yes, we've got to worry about the frauds and the cybersecurity and all of those aspects, and that's the challenge part of it and the efficacy part of it. But actually, you don't need any marketplaces in tomorrow's world, right? That is going to be here sooner than we think they're going to be here. And that's why the billions of dollars are going into the US Silicon Valley. I think India needs to be on the cutting edge of that, because by the time we get used to the banking as a service and embedded finance, we'll have a new innovation cycle. And we are not still talking about, I was reading about in the morning just about super memory, super intelligence, quantum computing, combine all of that with Gen AI, right? We are talking about a very, different world. All that I'm saying is that if you're going to be innovating based on today's technologies, then tomorrow technologies are going to be here sooner than we expect. And I think that's the tomorrow we have to work today so that then we can be at the cutting edge of it, right? This doesn't apply to just any single organization. It applies to ecosystems. It applies to us, I think, as a country as well.
So I think this is a great perspective. And with all due respect, I disagree that the fintech, the banks are actually fintech. It's a tech first or a fintech. We can say they are innovating, but there are legacy issues that are there. I, who was part of the fintech, converted into a bank, can actually see the value that the fintechs are bringing on the table. So I would differ on that viewpoint. But having said that,
I'll interject you there, but disagreements are healthy. I think that keeps the fun going. But I'll just add to say that we ought to be the fintechs if we are not perceived to be the fintechs.
That is right. So we have to be tech first in order to innovate for future. That I totally agree. But yes, there are fundamental gaps the way the banking sector has grown. And these gaps required a very, I would say, a narrow yet deep solutioning in order to bridge that gap. In today's world, when we are talking about 10 minutes delivery, we are talking about e-commerce, we are talking about every possible product and service that is available to the customers. I think the banking, in order to meet the same bar, there is definitely a role of a fintech to play here. But moving forward, Arnika, what is your viewpoint on this, from your experience standpoint?
I think Arvind explained in detail. There are 2-3 ways in which our consumers interact with a bank, right? When it comes to certain transactional services, which is, my processing of payments, why do I need to go to a branch to do certain transactions which I can do online? I think that's where speed, that's where, digitization, that's where, is where a consumer is looking at, can I do it at a snap of a button? So I think payments is one area where partnership with, some of the fintechs does help, because it does allow you to actually bring speed while the banks bring reach, and then together you can actually create some of the magic. Some of the areas that I think I still feel are where a consumer will come to a bank, of course the customer, is coming to the bank and saying, can you actually help me out with certain things? And I think that's where what Arvind also talked about, being there in the moment to giving credit to the customer at the right time. I think those are journeys that the banks are building right now are equally important, because those are end-to-end journeys which the consumer expect, because they come and bank with you and need you for that. And then there is third element in your banking journey where you are okay to wait for some period of time. Now, you can say that a home loan takes, sometimes I can give you instant disbursal, but it does take a consumer a lot of discovery process to understand that. Now there you need to understand how do you become a part in the journey from the discovery, hand-holding the clients and building the entire tech journey, which is not like that I'll give you a loan in 10 minutes, but it's also about the fact that maybe I'll help you find the best price, and that's where the role of agentic AI, Gen AI. So if somebody is actually in a discovering phase, the agentic AI can play a very important role to tell them that we have tied up these, these are the kind of, developers we have, and these are the kind of offerings we can give, and guess what? You are also eligible for a loan. So I think the bank plays a multiple role in the lives of a consumer, and it changes every time you are actually using the bank. For the moment you come onto the wealth side, nobody wants their portfolio to double next day, but they definitely need a very comprehensive advice which can come over a period of time. But that advice needs to be really anchored in data, research, analytics, right? And that's where, again, the use of, consuming all the, public source data and the proprietary customer insights that you have, and you create a little bit like a chief investment officer of the bank in a tech format, that helps you to actually your people to have conversation with the client. So I think, in my view, different roles at different points in time in the life of consumers. I don't think so a customer comes to the bank to get everything like real time.
Got it. I think, one of the topics that we cannot ignore when we talk about the innovation in banking and fintech is actually about the regulations. It is also common fact that most of the banks are also regulatory centric, and rightly so. While the fintech on the other side can have certain leeway because of light touch regulations and multiple other factors. So the ability for the fintech to carry out the innovation is far higher as compared to the bank because they will be risk averse, they are bound by multiple other things which is prescribed in the regulation. So on that note, DK to you, how do you see the innovation in the regulation part play out?
See, we have a very engaged regulator. I mean, the Reserve Bank of India is a very, very, very engaged regulator. And I also have 1 minute, 45 seconds.
So
I'll extend
we'll
that.
seek for some extension of time. Our session was cut short by 10 minutes because there was a delay, but maybe we can have 5 more minutes.
So yesterday, if you would have watched what the Honorable Finance Minister in this podium here stated about the fintech, she wanted fintech to grow, innovate, but be responsible, be productive, and be profitable. One of the things which bothers me about fintech currently now is the mass hoarding on scale on the financial technology services which is having. Either some of them will get cannibalized over a period of time, or some of them will just fall over the cliff, or some of them will just merge. So that is something which I think the financial technical services industry should look at in terms of having a proper P&L, in terms of what the growth is all about. And it's just not about in Bombay, it's the same thing happening there in Bangalore too. At the same time, when innovation is happening more on the AI scale driven phenomenally, and on topic of AI, I mean, if you go across this Geo Convention Center today, and if you go to any one of the halls currently happening now, they will all be talking about the artificial intelligence part of it. Such is the way it has percolated down the system. So while this is happening, while the technology side and all the products and everything that you will keep on coming out of the shelf will keep on happening, there is a viciousness out there in the industry there, which is also out there to rip you off. And hence the regulator part of it is just not about authentication, it's about putting guardrails effective at all places. I personally foresee a large parallel industry doing the same thing in putting up a guardrail, in effectively the same thing which business is putting up in terms of the payment side of it. So it's all correlated to two. And that's something which has to be highly done in a very, very methodical way. If you see the circulars coming out of Reserve Bank of India, it is getting more and more and more granular. And to my understanding and my request, again, at various forums, I keep on saying to the fintech thing is that be responsible to those circulars. We at bank are getting responsible enough to understand what the tangibleness of those circulars are all about. Because Reserve Bank of India is not even an engaged regulator, it works in tandem very closely with the Ministry of Finance. So more and more you will see regulation becoming an overarching influence into your whole perspective. So as the products come out, innovation will happen. At the same time, the guardrail is effective to see that phishing and all the other things that you continue to see, which happens every day, will also continue to be stopped. And so my request again remains the same, that let us be responsible enough to understand what regulation is all about at all scale to the fintech world. Yeah.
Sure, Rika, before I get into the last question, but Anu, quickly to you, how exactly do you think we should innovate responsibly, specifically in light of AI and all the technology that is being at present actively imbibed by the entire sector?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Bhawna. We all know that innovation without responsibility is like speeding without brakes. And in last 2024 calendar year, I believe we Indians lost some 23,000 crores to fraud, cyber fraud. So whether it is the mule accounts, whether it is the corporate APIs being intercepted. So yeah, so there is no compromise here. And I think we all, before we launch anything new, the first question we have to ask is that, does it protect the client before it delights the client? So I think
Great, thank you, Anu. I think the one question which I'm going to ask you, all four of you, is that if you have to define one innovation which is going to define the financial sector in next 5 years, what that will be? Arvind.
Well, I think Gen AI and variety of its application, both AI agents, agentic AI, but with the right governance, responsible AI, that side is extremely equally critical. We spoke about regulatory, but I think fundamentally it's the protection of the consumer, prudence at the foundation of everything that we do. And I think that's important for every player in the ecosystem.
Sure. Arnika, what will be your viewpoint?
Yeah, I mean, I would have said what Arvind said, but now I have to give another answer. No, I think my view is that just like UPI scaled up, I have a feeling that if account aggregator framework over a period of time will actually be one of, something that will, and it's not just about democratizing of credit and actually, understanding that we reach the last mile when it comes to credit. I personally feel that a lot of account aggregator data can be used to give a lot of personalized, curated financial products to the customers.
Great. Anu.
so, I think between us, we'll cover everything. But what I wanted to say is a little different. See, what is our role as bankers? A lot of us are bankers, right? What is our role as bankers? We are here to serve a customer. We are here as enablers. Okay, like nobody gets out of bed in the morning and says, today I'm going to use a banking product. But people do get out of bed with dreams. There is always a young couple in love who wants to buy their first home. There is a single mother who wants to send her daughter to Stanford to help her fulfill her dreams. There is a pensioner who wakes up in the morning and he says, today I'm going to set up my portfolio right for me and for my wife's twilight years. There is an SME entrepreneur who is trying to keep the lights on with US tariffs. There is some Indian really large corporate giant who's building India of everyone's dreams. So for all of this, what is our purpose? Is to enable them. So let's not forget that. So digitization is happening, it will continue to happen, and all of it eventually has to serve one purpose: to make their life easier, their life simpler, speedier, while they build their dreams.
Sure. I think great perspective.
So for me, it would be two. I think one of the things that we would see very clearly is very personalized banking, where we are predictive, not reactive. So everything comes to you in a basket, like a bouquet, and you choose, and it is spread over a period of time. And second, I foresee at some point in time augmented reality taking over a part of thing. I do see at some point where you would, at a flip, if you're wearing your specs, you could just bring it down and you have your heads-up display of banking even projected on your eyes, and you do with your fingers the same thing what you could do with your fingers. So that is some of the things which I foresee. I'm telling it because I did see it developing in a very fast scale in the fintech industry in Tel Aviv. So that's, I could say. Yeah.
I think great perspective from all our speakers. And this brings us to the end of this session. We don't have the time for Q&A. I'm sorry for that. But I think the panelists are available. In case you have any clarification post this session, please feel free to ask. Thank you very much for all your time and your attendance.